I spent over $150,000 on business and coaching gurus, from cheap books to expensive masterminds, and I'm here to share everything I've learned and if it was all worth it so you don't have to spend any money and still get all the value. Let's start with the cheapest investment and work our way to the most expensive. Plus, if you've wondered how much should a person spend on your skills as a percentage of your earnings, I'm gonna share that figure because that $150K I'm about to tell you about, yeah, it made me $4.5 million. All right, shall we? Number one is the Mom Test book. Cheapest and best investment I ever made was a $27 little book, this bad boy. It could have saved me a lot of trouble. When I first left my corporate grant writing gig in 2018, pledged to never write another grant again, never say never, look at us now. Basically, I had this other idea called the Alaska Movement, which is a whole nother video unto itself. But the idea was I was going to all these people and I was asking them, hey, do you think my idea is a good idea? And they affirmed for me, because people don't want to be rude, like, yeah, it sounds like you're onto something. And so I left my job and I threw everything into this new startup. I was gonna learn how to code and build a software company and the whole thing. Ultimately, within 3 months, I realized this isn't going anywhere because I have not defined a clear problem to solve. And what I wish I had done, that is the premise of this book, everyone's gonna lie to you because no one's gonna be rude, just like your mother, like, good job, honey, I'm so proud of you. What matters is, like, when we have new ideas, it matters who we ask and how we ask it to not be leading, influencing how they respond to us. So this is a book that I always refer back to. It's game changing. Number two was attending the Impact Summit event. I'd won $42 million in grants and I'd taught a few grant writing workshops, and I thought, what can be so hard about teaching it online? Well, it turns out a lot. And if you think about it, there are thousands of grant writers and only a handful of us actually teach you how to do it. I had wasted a year trying to DIY it, having made literally $2,000 in sales with, let me assure you, a ton of wasted time, effort, and money. When 2019 rolled around, I knew I was going to approach learning differently and learn from others who have been where I want to go. That led me to my first investment of $500 or so to attend the Kajabi Impact Summit. Kajabi is where we used to host my course content, and while it was definitely a huge stretch for me to attend, right? Like, I had to fly down from Alaska, I stayed at an Airbnb far away because I couldn't afford the hotel. It was a needle mover. I was super inspired by what I learned and saw. And one of the things I did that I recommend you also do is, if you go to these types of events, take prolific notes. Often you never look at them again, right? So what I did was I took those notes and I put them into a Google Sheet slide deck, and I referred to that slide deck for 2 years and shared it with others. Now, the unfortunate plot twist about that massive investment was dealing with an incredibly inappropriate and violating sexual assault, which I don't need to go into right now. I'll link up the video on the true behind the scenes stories of how my book came to be, but that's another note. At that conference, I noticed people that had made money teaching whatever it was they were teaching would get these pins, right? So like the first 1,500 and then making 10K and then 50K and 100K. And I wanted those pins, 500K, and then whoa, you could get $1 million pin, how rad. I tried to throw these stupid little pins away because I'm not really attached to a lot of stuff. I've literally even put them in the trash. And then I had to go take them out of the trash because they are a symbol of what I learned from literally like the start of going to that event and the $500 I spent betting on me. The other favorite thing I learned at that event, I'm gonna show you out in the soccer fields. Every day we get 6 kicks, right? I gotta kick my ideas forward because that's what I have the energy for. And if you're a mom, let's be real, you get 3 kicks a day. Let's say I do this, and by the time I get to my 4th and 5th ball, I'm pretty worn out because of the context switching. And it feels like I've got a lot of balls in the air, but nothing's actually getting done. What if instead we take one ball, one focus, and we kick it 6 times down to the end zone? 1, 2, 3. All of a sudden, you actually complete something and you get it to the finish line because no one else does it that way. Everyone else just spreads themselves wide, when instead you could focus on that one thing. And that is a differentiator that most people don't use because we don't know how to focus, and I'll show you how to do it. So if you are starting a new career and you're wanting to learn how to write grants or build a freelance business, give up that bogus lie of multiple streams of income and focus on one thing and give it 6 kicks a day. So number 3 was SAAS Accelerator. That stands for Software as a Service. Come along 2020, I've binged every YouTube video I can of Dan Martell's content, right? And when we joined, Alex and I, we made this big splash where we threw on on wigs and we introduced ourselves, and let me tell you, I stood out to Dan and he has known who I've been ever since. All the time members are like, I don't know how you remember all of us, because we're literally 600 members deep plus the thousands I've served over the years. And it's because when you take the time to introduce yourselves, I will never miss an introduction. I adore reading those, and that's how I get to know you and then watch your journey. So in that vein, what I learned in this SaaS accelerator was focus on one product, one target market, one marketing distribution channel with one offer until you hit 1 million in revenue. That extreme focus is so key, especially if you want to start freelance grant writing, to not distract yourself with shiny objects. The second concept is buying back your time, and that is something we learned well before this book even came out in his content. And I 100% attribute this to how Alex and I were able to go from literally losing $20,000 in the month of December 2020 alone to making $1 million in annual revenue 2 years later. That program, SaaS Accelerator, was for software companies. We weren't that, but I did enjoy learning from another industry. November 2020 comes, we wound down our consulting business during the heat of the CARES Act money is flowing. It was such a low point. So I took this learning day at Alex's suggestion to stop throwing stuff at the wall and see what would stick. I really thought all I needed to do was just have more time and have Alex and I dedicated to my marketing ideas. I didn't realize that there's so much else that was wrong about my offer, about my price point, about everything. So that when we got a new customer, we actually lost money. That led me to investment number 4, which was $10,000. I was so desperate, and I joined this gal named Haley Burkhead. It's her program. So consider this as like the equivalent of what we provide in the Global Grant Writers Collective. Lots of support, clear step-by-step instructions, and man, did I have a hunger to get after it. Now, what I learned, the riches are in the niches. We started with just serving women that wanted to freelance grant write. Very scary going that narrow. Getting your pricing right or none of it matters, which is now why I am such a stickler on teaching you pricing in the collective, because coaching members on how to charge appropriate professional fees so that you actually have the stable monthly revenue and the resources to truly live that vision board life is a non-negotiable for me. If not for that $10,000 investment, I would have very likely gone back to grant writing consulting myself because, hey, I do know how to make money doing that. And maybe, who knows, I would have grown so discouraged that I would have resigned myself and like never made that big bet on myself. At that $10,000 fee, we literally didn't have the money to pay for. And I was worried. I'm like, am I just being desperate? Am I vulnerable right now? And that's why I'm seeking this, because she's speaking into my pain points. But here's what we did. We got on the payment plan and I was like, we are just gonna freaking do this. And Alex is like very studious, right? So she was like, we need to turn in the homework and get response. And I was like, no, we don't have time for doing homework. Like, we are doing the work and we're executing it, and that's how it's going. In 3 weeks, we completely overhauled our business. I mean, it was just intense, like from not 7, 8, 9 in the morning till 10, 11 at night every day. I have to say that like it was so scary to make that bet on ourselves, to not know how am I even gonna make the payments in a couple months? But I had faith in myself by leaning in, by having the courage to follow someone else's roadmap that's been where I wanted to go. And obviously turning 10K into $1 million in 2 years, I got a good ROI. Now, before we get to the most expensive investment I've ever made in myself and other coaches, let me tell you about the $50,000 investment I made that honestly, I maybe broke even on. I'm not gonna name the program because that's kind of a not nice thing to do, but it was $25,000 for the year, and then it added up basically to $25,000 in travel for these 2 events that we attended live. Now, here's where I went wrong with that investment. I let her marketing convince me that I had a problem that I needed to pay her to solve. And this broke from my typical hiring process, which follows Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time loop, where instead of joining this program and using it to learn how to relieve more of my time, I added complexity by outsourcing my confidence, thinking I need someone else to save me and do this for me because, hey, I'm just a girl. So here's my advice on this situation so you don't find yourself in a similar spot. 1, this is why online programs and masterminds are so awesome, because it's not like going to get an MBA that's super expensive where it's like you're getting this general knowledge about a lot of topics. What's so sweet about kind of focused learning is that you get to go solve an actual problem in your life and get very almost near immediate results solving for that problem. My advice in this situation is to solve for a problem that you are actually experiencing, not one that marketing is trying to convince you that you have. All right, let's move on to number 5. So the biggest investment I made was $25,000 to attend Dan Martell's Mastermind weekend weekend, the last week of June last year. I basically bought 500 copies of this guy's book. To do so, like plus an investment, was able to get myself into that room. Here are some of the lessons I learned in that moment. There was several 8- and 9-figure business owners, and then there were like a handful of us that were like barely 7-figure business owners that were small. The 8- and 9-figure business owners were seeking an elegant insight. They were looking for that one little nugget that they could apply to their business that would have a multiplying effect. Whereas us, little 7-figure business owners, we're consuming all the information. We're like, oh my gosh, how do I take all of this back home and implement it? And we were overwhelmed. And so I observed that difference and realized it's not about just the quantity of things that you can do and jam-packing it all in. It's actually about those elegant moments. I want you to seek that, even in this video. What is the elegant moment that you can take away and apply to your life? Some other cool things that happened. I mean, I was only one of 2 women in that room of like 25 guys. And I think it just goes to show, like, get yourself in the room, even if you feel imposter syndrome. I ended up meeting Chris with Beta, that we did this whole epic AI grant writing software journey, which you can watch the videos on that later. I also met the founder of Searchy. They are also course creators. Stu McLaren started this company. And essentially what you can do is, like, we have years of coaching calls, tons of content in our community group. I mean, there's Loom videos I have filmed, and it will go and scan all of that. Sparkles will. Sparkles is in the course. If you know, you know. So you ask this little fellow questions, and she will go through 5 years of content and give you an AI sourced answer, and the answers are awesome. That technology I wouldn't even have known about if not going for that event. Just goes to show that, like, you kind of never know the magic that's gonna happen at Masterminds. I feel like at programs, it's more clearly like a problem that you're solving. In Mastermind live events, it's sort of like, what's gonna happen? I can't wait to be inspired. Number 6 is Victoria's Bending Reality Program, right? So obviously I was gifted this $20 book by someone. It changed my entire life. Alex and I went and then did an 8-week program where basically we just dove really deep into some of the principles that are not in the book, changed both of our lives. And now I'm like this close to gearing up for the Alchemy Journey program, which is gonna culminate in a medicine journey, which is something I've actually always wanted to do, but never felt safe and ready to try. Here's the 3 things I can tell you I've learned from Victoria. 1, when we do not process our emotions, they become trapped in the body. And as we build more and more armor around ourselves to protect from the things going wrong or the unexpected, and if you're like me, honestly, you need things to just be so, or you're gonna lose your mind. It is really an indication that our poor little nervous systems are fried, that we need to slow down and process our emotions. Now, I am more aware of how to allow myself to feel my feelings without shaming them or trying to shut them down or control myself to being positive. Number 2, ask yourself, am I feeling expansive right now or contractive? And the question of the year for me in 2022, and it was enormously illuminating, down to who do I spend my time with? What do I want from my life? What have I said yes to that gives me, that actually I can give myself permission to skip? Or maybe, the next time you're feeling indecisive about something, is it your logical mind doing, taekwondo with your heart? Or can you step back from that rational side of your mind that's trying to bully an answer forward and answer the simple question, does saying yes to this feel expansive or contractive? It is one or the other. Number 3, if we want to live a different life, we need different thoughts. And because the thoughts are what guide our actions, that's why one of our 3 daily non-negotiables within the collective are daily belief upgrades, where you surface a belief that you have, like, no one's gonna pay me to write grants for them, I don't have any experience, to I've been paid for my expertise for years now, why not now? Or I have experience in critical thinking and this type of nonprofit, so why not be able to apply that to grants directly? It's tangential experience. I bring fresh energy and perspective, or there are organizations out there that can't wait to work with me. We can upgrade the beliefs that are negative. How much should you allocate to continued education? I have spent 1 to 5% of my total revenue per year on trainings, courses, coaches, events, and a little bit of travel to get to those things. The hard education costs have been about $150K. I went and pulled it in my financial records. But if you factor in the travel, it's probably closer to about $200,000. And that 200 grand has made me $4.5 million. And I'm not kidding that is actually a direct correlation, not an indirect correlation. I've had a coach for writing a book, a coach for building a course, a coach for my personal development, training for my team's skills. Like, I'm sending my sister right now through an $8,000 operations program. I am not exaggerating to say that I would not be in business today if not for paying for coaching. My experience with continued education is this. 1, leaders are readers. If you want to super cheaply expand your knowledge around something, read. I can't believe the value in my $16 book, or whatever it goes for now, because thousands of dollars of experience and advice is in this thing. I met a guy this summer that built a timber frame home that he literally taught himself from 3 books. So if you want to expand your mind quickly and cheaply, read. Number 2, dream at events, dive in with coaching. So my experience is that live events really rev up our inspirational juices. They get you into community in a really life-giving way, and that is invaluable. But if you're looking for sustained year-round support and ongoing accountability to keep that momentum going, that's where the ongoing coaching comes in. Number 3, pay to perform. If you want to move quickly and not make mistakes, then learn from others that have online programs. It is literally the best way, the cheapest way to get tactical learnings step by step, so you can go where they already have like the built-in support system. Like, you can watch these YouTube videos all day long, right? And that's fine, but that is not going to put you any closer to making $5,000 a month or more as a grant writer. We do not ascend to our ambitions, we settle to our systems, which is why tactical how-to is insufficient when you look at, okay, how are you going to support yourself in reaching your goals? I want you to make sure that whatever you invest in goes beyond the how-tos and supports you in that harder work, which is actually rewiring the beliefs and thoughts we have that affect us from having that life of our dreams. So the bottom line is this: education is a passport to the world. Having fun, learning and earning, up-leveling, unlocking new levels of joy and fun in your life, it all happens by continuously investing in yourself. So if you want a coach to make money as a grant writer, DM me on Instagram @LearnGrantWriting, and I'll see if I can help you. All right, we'll see you there.